Now, welcome to today's science lesson that is on the topic, the subtopic excretion, excretion in animals or in human beings. Now, we are going to talk about, to continue where we left on excretion, where we defined excretion. We talked of the organs of excretions, where we talked of the skin, the lungs, and the kidney. Now, last time we discussed the skin, the function of the skin, and also we discussed the important parts of the skin and their functions. Now, today I said we will continue to discuss the kidney and the lungs. Now, straight away we are going to discuss the kidney. Now, how does the kidney functions, or what is the importance of the kidney to the excretion? Now, when you remember the last time we talked about the excretory products of the kidney, where we said it is the urine. We said the kidney, we excrete urine. Now, urine, we said it's a combination of water. We said it's a combination of water plus plus urea plus it is water plus urea plus salt. Now, with the urine, we said it's a combination of water, urea, and salt. Now, we want to discuss on how these three products are produced to the outside of the body. Now, this is a structure of the kidney. This is the structure of the kidney, where on the kidney we have two kidneys. That is the left kidney and the right kidney. All of them, they functions. All of the kidneys are functional. Now, when you look at this diagram structure here, we have the ureter, which is joining the kidney and the urinary bladder. Now, what is the function of the kidney? What will be the function of the use of the ureter? And what is the function of the urinary bladder? And what is the function of the urethra? You should not confuse the ureter and the urethra. Now, straight away, I like to underline or give the main function of the kidney. That's the general function of the kidney. If you are asked in exam, which one of the following is the main function of the kidney? You will say the main function of the kidney is to filter or remove urine. Is to filter or remove urine from the blood. When blood is being pumped from different parts, it passes through the kidney. And when it passes through the kidney, the kidney now filters. It filters urine, that is water, urea, and salt from the blood. Now that urine, that's the combination is now, which is brought out from the kidney to the outside. Now, let's discuss the parts. Let's discuss the parts of the kidney. Let's go to the main part of the kidney, and the first part I'm going to discuss is the ureter. I said the ureter joins the kidney and the urinary bladder. Now, what's the function? It carries the urine from the kidney to the urinary bladder. The kidney filters urine, and now after filtering it, that urine should be transported to the bladder. The bladder is at the lower part of the human reproductive system. Now, at that part is where now you feel that there is pain. When you start feeling pain, that is the presence of water, which has been the urine, which has been stored temporarily in the urinary bladder. Now, that is the ureter transports or carries urine from the kidney to the urinary bladder. What is the function of the urinary bladder? The function of the urinary bladder, as I have stated, is to store, that is temporarily storage of urine. It just stores urine temporarily, just the same as we discussed in digestive system, the function of the rectum, storing the digestive products, that's the undigested products temporarily. The urinary bladder now temporarily also stores the urine. Now we move to the urethra. Now, after the storage of the urine in the urinary bladder, this urine, when the bladder is full, the bladder contracts. It contracts, and when it contracts, it pushes the urine outside through the urethra. It pushes the urine outside through the urethra. Now, the main function of the urethra is now just for passage. It passes urine to the outside. It passes urine to the outside. Now, in male, we talk of it passes urine through the penis, while it is through the penis, that is the urethra is between inside the penis, and in female it is found on the upper part of the vagina. It is found on the upper part of the vagina. Now, the urethra is found on the upper part of the vagina. We move to removal of urine. Now here we are going to discuss on how now urine is transported, or how now urine is formed in from the blood until it is formed then when it is taken outside. Also here we are going to discuss the substances that are now transported to outside. What are these substances that are excreted? Now blood passes through the kidney, which filters excess salt. When blood passes through the kidney, here, that's the kidney, it filters excess salt. We talk of excess salt, excess water, and excess urea, and also poisonous substances such as drugs. Now you will be asked in exam, which part of the excretory organ filters or removes drugs? That is the kidney. The kidney helps in excretion of poisonous substances such as drugs. That's why now you cannot drink urine. When you drink urine, you are drinking poisonous substances that has been removed by the kidney. Then these drugs are eliminated as urine. These drugs, combination of drugs, water, and excess salt, they are removed as urine. Now that is all about the kidney. Now the questions that come to the kidney, they are as follows. Number one, you may be asked the parts. You may be asked to name the parts of the kidney and give their functions. Number two, you may be asked to describe the flow of urine, how the urine flows from the kidney to the ureter, to the urinary bladder, then lastly removed through the urethra. So you must begin with the parts. You must begin with the process of removal of that urine. Now that is the second part of the excretory organs. Now we are moving to the third part of the excretory organs, and the third part of the excretory organs, that is the lungs. We are going to discuss about the lungs. Now on the lungs, we talked about the lungs in standard 5, where we talked of the parts of the lungs, the functions, that is under the breathing system. This is the lungs is under the breathing system. The breathing system is in standard 5, where he talked about the parts, the function of the trachea, the function of the diaphragm, the function of the alveoli, the function of the cartilages that are found on the trachea, and the functions of the nose, what happens in the nose when you breathe in, and what happens to the air when you breathe in through the nose, where we talked about the warming, and the warming of air in the nose is done by what we call the blood capillaries. The blood capillaries warms the air. Then we have also in the nose, we also have what we call the hair, and the hair in the nose, we talked about them in standard 5, and also we want to go through them. It's to trap the dust particles that are in the air. When you breathe oxygen, most of the time you may be at a place where it's very dirty, so the hair inside the nose helps to trap that dust. And the other thing that helps in trapping of the dust is the mucus. So the presence of the mucus in the nose is not because of it's dirty, but now it also helps so that you can breathe in a clear or clean air. Now also in standard 5, we talked about what happened when you are breathing in to the diaphragm, what happened to the lungs when you are breathing in, what happened to the diaphragm. This part here is what we call the diaphragm. This part in the air is what we call the diaphragm. Now what happened to the diaphragm when you are breathing in? You talked about it in standard 5. What happened to the lungs when you are breathing in? And with the lungs, on the side of the lungs, we have what we call the ribs. What happened to the ribs when you are breathing in? What happened to the volume inside the lungs when you are breathing in? Now here the lungs is where now the gaseous exchange takes place. And when you are talking about in standard 5, we talked about breathing in oxygen and breathing out carbon dioxide. And that one brings us to carbon dioxide being the main excretory products of the lungs. Carbon dioxide is the main excretory products from the lungs. Now if you are asked what is the main excretory products from the lungs, you say it's carbon dioxide. But now inside the air we breathe, we have what we call the moisture. We have the moisture part of it. That's why you said in the lungs we have two products that are released. In the lungs we said we have two products, that is carbon dioxide and water. Water in short is written as H2O, that is water. Now the water is what we call moisture or water vapor. Now what happened? How does carbon dioxide diffuses inside or outside the body? How does it occur? around the air sacs, in the lungs here, inside here, we have what we call the air sacs, or also the alveoli. Now, in the air sacs, they are surrounded by what we call the blood capillaries. Now, these blood capillaries, when you talk about the circulatory system, you talked about the blood that is deoxygenated blood and oxygenated blood. Now, the deoxygenated blood from the body parts is taken back to the lungs. When this deoxygenated blood is taken back to the lungs, now it contains carbon 4 This carbon 4 it diffuses. We say it diffuses. Carbon 4 diffuses. It diffuses to the lungs. After digestion, after diffusion to the lungs, it is now carried out or breathed out through the nose. It is breathed out through the nose. But now, what are the process? Mtu akikwambia kwamba, can you discuss the procedure of carbon 4 removal? Number one, you start by saying it passes through from the air sacs, that is from blood. From blood, it enters the air sacs. After entering the air sacs, it goes direct to the bronchioles. We talk of the bronchioles, Now, from the bronchioles, it goes to bronchus. It goes to the bronchi. Then from the bronchi, this carbon 4 moves to trachea. It moves to trachea. Then lastly, it gets out through the nose. Then lastly, it gets outside through the nose. That is the procedure on how carbon 4 is brought out of the body. Now, we move to this part here where we are going to talk about the air breathed in through the nose, where it is now warmed. We said I've already discussed it. The air is warmed, and I said what helps in warming, that is the blood capillaries in the nose helps in the warming. Now, I have already talked about the dirty, that is the dust particles, and are trapped by the mucus and the hair. I have already illustrated that, and also you studied in standard 5. Then here now, we already talk about oxygen. Now, when you breathe in oxygen gas. This oxygen gas also, it has such process that it follows. This is the process of carbon 4 removal. But also you have the process of oxygen being diffused to the body parts. How? Oxygen is breathed in through the nose. After it has been breathed in through the nose, it passes. After cleaning has been done, warming has been done, and also removal of the dust has been done, it is now moved down through the trachea. It moves down through the trachea, and now when it moves down through the trachea, it enters here what we call the bronchus. From the bronchus, it enters the bronchioles. From the bronchioles, it enters what we call the air sacs. Now, after entering the air sacs, it now diffuses also. It diffuses now to the blood capillaries. It diffuses now to the blood capillaries. Now, after diffusing to the blood capillaries is where now on circulatory system we talked about now the pulmonary vein, which now carries blood from, that is oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. Now, after blood reaches the heart, it's now pumped by the left ventricle to all body parts, and it is pumped through the aorta. Now, the aorta carries oxygenated blood, that is blood with oxygen, to all body parts. Thereafter, now after oxygen has been used, it is taken back to the heart through the vena cava, where now after that, and then oxygen, the process continues. The process continues. Now here, I've already talked about it. Now oxygen, it is now picked by the hemoglobin. It is picked by the hemoglobin in the blood capillaries. I've talked about it, and now this one, the hemoglobin, brings us to the function of the component of the blood, where we talked about the white blood cell, we talked of the red blood cell, we talked of the platelets, and also we talked about the red blood cell. Now, when you talk about the red blood cell, I will insist because it's what is important here. Now, the red blood cell, they are the one that contains hemoglobin. The red blood cells are the one that contain hemoglobin. Now the hemoglobin in the red blood cell, they mix up with oxygen to form what we call oxyhemoglobin. They form what we call oxyhemoglobin. After mixing with the oxygen, they form, before they mix with the oxygen, they are just hemoglobin cells. Now after mixing with the oxygen, they form what we call oxyhemoglobin. Now that one, it brings us to the final end of the lungs, and also it brings us to the discussion of how oxygen is transported to all other body parts. Now, if you are asked in an exam, what is the function of the lungs in excretion? The function of the lungs is to release or excrete carbon dioxide and excess water. And also, the main function when you are starting in standard 5, you said it is for gaseous exchange. Now, I said on the lungs, when you are asked in exam, what is the function of the lungs? That is carbon dioxide, excretion of carbon dioxide and excess water. And in standard 5, we talked about the main function of the lungs being gaseous exchange. And we said the main product of lungs is the carbon dioxide. Now, carbon dioxide is breathed out while the oxygen is taken into the body. Now, that is all about the human body. When you started the discussion with the teacher, you talked about the teeth, you talked about the breathing system, you talked about the excretory system, you talked about the circulatory system, and now the excretory system, that is the excretory organs, it brings us to the end of discussion of the human body. Now, on the human body, in most of the papers in KCPE, you will find out that there is no paper that will end without question on the human body. So, you must go through the topic, you must go through and revise all the questions that are found on the topic. Otherwise, that one is the end of today's topic. Let's meet next time, inshallah.